Hanley, Staffordshire, in 1850, a time when ships were still powered by wind and sail. Edward John Smith grew up far from the oceans, yet the call of the sea tugged at him from a young age. With ambition in his eyes and discipline in his heart, he joined the Merchant Navy as a teenager, climbing the ranks with a reputation for calmness and command. By the time he was 30, the boy from the English Midlands had become a trusted officer navigating the Atlantic's unpredictable waters. Smith's association with the White Star Line began in the 1880s, and over the next 2 decades, he became the company's most prized captain. Wealthy passengers specifically requested to sail under him, entrusting their lives to his steady judgment. He captained some of the grandest ships of the era: Baltic, Adriatic, Olympic, each voyage a testament to his professionalism and poise. By the early 1900s, he was widely regarded as the millionaire's captain. In 1912, Edward Smith was chosen to helm the White Star Line's most ambitious vessel yet, the RMS Titanic. It was not just another ship, it was a marvel of modern engineering, a floating palace boasting cutting-edge technology and unimaginable luxury. Titanic was advertised as unsinkable, a term Smith never officially endorsed, but one that hung in the air like prophecy. For Captain Smith, it was to be his final voyage before a well-earned retirement. As the Titanic departed Southampton on April 10, 1912, Smith stood tall on the bridge, dignified, experienced, and seemingly in control of a flawless journey. The first few days were uneventful. The Atlantic was calm and spirits aboard were high. Passengers danced, dined, and marveled at the ship's sheer size. But beneath the surface, warnings of icebergs trickled in via wireless messages Smith acknowledged but didn't fully act upon. It was common knowledge that April seas held ice, and the Titanic, in its might, pressed forward at nearly full speed. Then came the night of April 14th. At 11:40 p.m., lookouts spotted a looming iceberg directly ahead. Despite desperate maneuvers, the Titanic's hull scraped along the ice, tearing open compartments below the waterline. Captain Smith, roused from rest, immediately took command. He remained composed, giving swift orders, assessing damage, and coordinating with engineer Thomas Andrews. But the truth was inescapable. The Titanic was sinking. Smith's experience and humanity shone in those final hours. He walked the decks, encouraging passengers, assisted women and children into lifeboats, and made no attempt to save himself. His commands were clear: be British, a call for calm, courage, and dignity. As chaos spread and the band played on, Smith remained a steady figure of leadership amid the horror. Some claimed he was last seen at the bridge, others near a lifeboat helping crew members. All agree he never left the ship. The Titanic slipped beneath the icy Atlantic in the early hours of April 15th, taking over 1,500 souls with her, including her captain. Edward Smith died with his ship, as naval tradition and honor dictated. Survivors later recalled his bravery, stoicism, and sense of duty. To many, he became a tragic symbol of a bygone era, when captains bore the burden of command with nobility. In the aftermath, Smith's legacy became tangled in debate. Was he too complacent? Should he have slowed the ship in iceberg-laden waters? Some critics said yes. Others defended him fiercely, pointing to the culture of overconfidence in technology and the immense pressure he faced. Regardless of the verdict, his name became etched forever in the history of tragedy and heroism. Today, Edward John Smith is remembered not just as the captain of the Titanic, but as a man who represented the complexities of leadership at the edge of human ability. He sailed at the pinnacle of maritime achievement and perished in its greatest disaster. His statue still stands in Lichfield, England, with a plaque that reads, "Be British," a simple phrase that captures a lifetime of responsibility, sacrifice, and courage. After the Titanic's sinking, the White Star Line faced overwhelming scrutiny. Survivors, the media, and investigators sought answers. Why weren't there enough lifeboats? Why did the ship ignore iceberg warnings? Amid this chaos, Edward Smith's name appeared both as a symbol of courage and as a scapegoat. The company remained silent on some decisions, further fueling the controversy. But Smith's legacy remained central to the public's emotional response. In Britain, Smith's hometown of Stoke-on-Trent held commemorative gatherings. Locals remembered him not as the man who failed, but as one who stayed loyal to his duty. His family received letters of sympathy from across the world. It was as if the sorrow of an entire era was channeled through the fate of one man, the captain who faced the sea instead of fleeing it. For years, historians debated Captain Smith's mindset in those final hours. Did he regret pushing the Titanic's speed? Was he paralyzed by the scale of the disaster? Or was he simply overwhelmed by the ship's flaws? The ambiguity surrounding his final decisions only made his story more haunting, more mythic, almost Shakespearean in tragedy. As maritime law evolved, Captain Smith became the reluctant father of reform. His death and the tragedy he captained inspired the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, in 1914. This protocol changed shipping forever. Lifeboat availability, 24-hour radio watches, and better emergency drills became mandatory, all traced back to lessons from the Titanic. In American classrooms, the Titanic disaster became a staple lesson, not just in history, but in leadership, ethics, and human limitation. Smith's photo often appeared beside quotes about bravery and consequence. While American audiences initially viewed him with skepticism, over time he came to represent the noble, if imperfect, leader doing his best in an impossible situation. Hollywood played its part in reshaping Smith's image. In multiple adaptations of the Titanic story, he was portrayed as solemn, authoritative, and quietly heroic. The most iconic portrayal, in James Cameron's 1997 film, cemented his face in the minds of millions. That performance, even with its fictional elements, restored a degree of dignity to a man whose real story was already legendary. Today, maritime museums across the U.S., from New York to California, hold artifacts and exhibitions that honor Captain Smith. His letters, ship logs, and even personal items have been preserved, allowing new generations to encounter him not just as a name in a headline, but as a complex figure caught in the tide of history. Smith's story resonates even beyond the Titanic. In a world constantly shaped by technology, speed, and ambition, his fate stands as a warning. Ambition without caution, pride without foresight, these are recurring human flaws. And Smith, for all his honor, was also part of a system that overestimated its own invincibility. Yet, it's not failure that defined Smith, but the grace with which he faced it. By all survivor accounts, he didn't panic, he didn't flee. He gave orders, he helped others, and he stayed with the ship until the end. That image, the captain on the bridge, alone, as the ocean rose, became an eternal emblem of dignity. The sea finally claimed Edward Smith, but not his story. It lives on in books, films, classrooms, and memorials. He was a man of his time, flawed, revered, and ultimately unforgettable. His legacy, tangled with tragedy, remains afloat in the currents of history, quietly steering every tale told about Titanic.